that have their own alumni association. We have about 3,000 members, people that have graduated from Blair. Some of them as far back as 1939. And I'm proud, not me, some of our people. I'm proud. We have, and I know you all have a scholarship program too, and that's one of the main things that we do is each year we give out scholarships to graduating seniors at Blair who are moving on in their program. This year we were fortunate enough through the generosity of our alumni to be able to give out about $25,000 worth of scholarships to graduating seniors at Montgomery Blair. So we do a lot of work with that. Then the other thing that Matt mentioned in the introduction was that in addition to, I think we're having a clicker problem here, Matt. We'll move along with it. Okay. I am also the current president of the Washington, D.C. chapter of the National Speakers Association. And I've been a member of their group for a very long time, and I'm proud to be their president. And I wanted him to mention that because I wanted to ask you, when you go to your PMI programs or maybe some of the scientific societies you're a member of or technical societies, and you have these big name speakers come in there, have you ever noticed how many times in their introduction they mention that they are the past president of a professional society or they were on the board of directors of another organization? Why do you think they do that? Are they just trying to fill up the introduction? Here's something to think about. When you get these people that are leaders of businesses, industries, professions, companies, and they tell people in their introduction, I want it known that I put some time back into my profession or my industry through my professional or trade association. It's part of their credibility. It's part of who they are. It's one thing to go through a testing program and get the PMP or whatever certification is, and that's great. But when you're on the board of directors or in a leadership role or the president of your professional organization or your trade association, what they're telling you when you're elected to that position is your peers are electing you, and they're saying you're the kind of person we want to lead this organization. So it's not a mistake, it's not an accident, it's not a resume builder when they put those things in there. The people that put in their introduction that they're involved in their professional organization know that that's part of their credibility. And it's something that they're proud of. And it does say something about them, their peers put them in those positions. So what we want to talk about tonight is a little bit of why those people put their time in to do those things. What did they get out of it? Some of these people lead big companies. Some of these people are involved in huge industry-wide activities, and yet they still put in their volunteer time to do the same kinds of things that the leaders do here in this particular chapter. So we're going to talk about that tonight and why they do this. So what we're going to try to do a couple times tonight, and if it doesn't work out, we won't do it very often. But we're going to try tonight to get a little bit of interaction from our group. So we're talking about leadership tonight. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a very, very short exercise, 30 seconds. So what I want the people that are here live tonight, I mean, we're all live, but I mean in person tonight. No, most of us are live. Anyway, what I want you all to do is just next to you. I just want you to real quickly give them a definition of what, when somebody says, what's the definition of leadership? What does that mean? When you say somebody is a good leader, they have leadership skills, what's the definition of effective leadership? Okay, so just take 30 seconds to do that. Those of you that are out there that are with us on Zoom, if you want to put your definition real quickly in the chat room, we'll take a look at some of the things that are coming in. So we're only going to do this 30 seconds. We're going to time it. So share at your tables for a minute, and then those of you that are online, go ahead and put that in the chat. What's the definition of leadership? How would you define what leadership is?
I got more of the stories. I got. Oh yeah,
That's won't be it. Okay, all right, let's, our 30 seconds is up. So we're just gonna do just a little quick interactive exercise here. So let's start off with somebody who's here with us at the restaurant this evening. Somebody give me what their definition of leadership is. What did you tell the other person? Okay, so his definition is it's somebody that enables people to do the best that they can and work with them. Okay. Matt, what have we got that's coming in on the chat? What are some of the definitions?
Ability to motivate, inspire.
Ability to motivate and inspire.
The ability and knowledge to organize an activity in your group.
Okay, somebody that can organize a group.
Taking care of the people you are leading.
Taking care of the people you are leading. Anybody else in the restaurant? Yes, in back. Somebody who's a mentor who can guide it. So, I mean, some of these are very similar, and we'll have a chance to take a look at them. For the purposes of the next few minutes while we're talking here, I'm going to give you my definition of leadership. So if you can accept this so that we got a regular starting with talking about leadership. This is what I think leadership is all about. It's the ability to get things done with and through other people. Leadership is the ability to get things done with and through other people. Now, that doesn't mean people don't expect you as a leader to do things. Okay? But what they expect you to do is to get them involved and engaged in the mission or the purpose or whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. And that's where the leadership really, the rubber meets the road, as it were, in leadership. It's the ability to get other people to work with you so that we're getting things done with and through each other. So we're going to be talking about that as we go through here, giving you some tips on some of the things you'll want to do if you can do that. Now, in order for this discussion that we're going to have for the next few minutes to make any sense, I want to give you a little bit of a case study. Okay. So I want everybody, those of you that are listening and those of you that are here, I want you to imagine that Charlie Geist has said he's not going to be president. 3 people just had a heart attack, right? And you have been invited to serve on the committee that's going to find somebody to be the next president for the Montgomery County chapter of PMI. So, keep our. Here's what we're going to ask you to do again. We're going to ask you to do a little exercise. Okay. You are now on the nominating committee. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to help this chapter select somebody to be the next president. But here's the key. We don't want you to think about a person. We want you to think about the role of chapter president. So forget about any individuals sitting in this room or online people that you know. You're going to be on this committee and you're going to start off and you're going to have to figure out what kind of person do we want to be our chapter president and what are they going to be able to do. So here's this little 30-second exercise we're going to do. First thing I want you to do, I want those of you that are out there, again, use the chat to put some information there. What characteristics and what skills would you like to see if you could pick somebody to be, in effect, the perfect president for this chapter next year? You can put anything you want on your list. Don't think about individuals. Think about it if we could get them. Now, do you understand the difference between a characteristic and a skill? What's a characteristic of somebody that would make a good president? Somebody who's confident, okay? What's a skill they're going to need to get things done with and through other people? Delegation, okay? So here's what I want you to do. First of all, we'll take 30 seconds for this. You can discuss it here, put it in the chat here. Let's just start with the characteristics. You can have any characteristics you want because you're building this model, this avatar of a perfect president. Characteristics are what kind of a person, what characteristics are they bringing to the job, okay? So talk amongst yourselves for 30 seconds. Those of you that are with us online, go ahead and start putting in the chat. Again, don't worry about the individual. Think about if you could have somebody, any group of characteristics that would help make him the greatest president you've ever had, what would those characteristics be? Okay, just take a few seconds to work on that. Okay, let's say so. Let's go around the room real quickly and just raise your hand. And I want you to some of the things that you talked about. First thing that came to your mind. Anybody? Yes. Somebody who's charismatic. That would be great. Obviously, if they're going to be your president, they're going to be out there and you want them to. Bill? Somebody who's honest. That would be nice, since they're going to be handling the money for the chapter too. What other characteristics would you like to see? Someone who is calm and collected, somebody who doesn't panic when they run into a crisis or something like that. Anybody else? Resilient. Why resilient? Right. You want somebody that doesn't get discouraged the first time when something doesn't work. You want somebody that doesn't get worried if somebody says no to them, those kinds of things, because it's going to happen a lot. Right? How about a couple that are online there, Matt?
The ability to inspire others, an active listener.
Active listener.
An influencer.
Somebody who's an influencer, somebody who can talk to people in a way so that they're listening to what they're saying. What else?
Creative, strategic thinker.
Creative, strategic thinker.
Innovator along those lines.
Innovator, you know, it's easy to come into the presidency and say, what did we do last year? Let's do it again and try to do it better. It's really different to say, instead of having one good year 5 times, let's have 5 good years. So when I'm president, we're going to try some new things around. What else? Okay. Somebody who's well connected. Why would that be important?
If you're going to run into adversity, having the ability to reach out, bring other people in, ideas.
Right, so somebody who's well connected within the profession or within the community or within the employer community or whatever. Okay, these are great. Now, we're going to do the same thing for 30 seconds. Now I want you to forget about the characteristics, the kind of person they are. And I want you to think about the job of president of this chapter. What skills are they going to need to have if they're going to have an effective, successful year in this chapter next year? Okay, take 30 seconds, share some ideas, and we'll do the same with these people online. Okay, our 30 seconds is up. Now, this is going to be a little different now because it's not what kind of person are you? It's literally what can you do? So if you could have a perfect person that's got the skills that are going to help this chapter move forward, what kind of skills am I going to need? Which one?
Communication.
Communication skill. Right? Raise your hand if you had something like that down there about communication. Right? What kind of communications are you talking about? Presentation skills. What else? Writing skills, because you're going to be writing to the members. You'll be writing in the newsletter. You'll be writing articles for the website. You're going to be writing articles, you know, for PMI and those kinds of things. Okay. What else besides communication skills? What other skills are they going to need? Pardon? Conflict resolution. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. You have conflict in your chapter. apparently you all are, I don't know. That, how about a couple that are on there?
Project management skills, since we are a project management chapter.
Well, it would be nice if they are knowledgeable of the profession. I mean, again, you assume that there's some assumption there, but you can have anything you want, so just ask for somebody that's, is really at the top of the profession itself. What else?
Strategic thinking.
Strategic thinking.
One person for time management, but John Maxwell, he says you can't manage time, so it's priority management.
Okay, priority management or time management. That's a good one, especially in today's world.
Emotional intelligence skills.
Emotional intelligence skills. Anybody else? These are great. Look at the combination of things you would love to see in your chapter president. You want somebody who is who's got the ability to communicate. You want somebody that can manage conflict management. You want somebody that's at the top of their profession. You want somebody who's nice. You want somebody who's honest. What are the chances you're going to find somebody in this chapter with all of those characteristics and all of those skills? Other than in this room.
You may find somebody, but the odds that they want to volunteer.
Yeah.
Right.
100,
Yeah.
200 hours.
Well, yeah, you may find somebody, but that doesn't mean they're going to take the job. By the way, if you find somebody with all of those characteristics and all of those skills, marry them. I mean, adopt them, something. You're not going to find people, you're rarely going to find anybody with all the characteristics, all the skills. But here's what you have to do when you're in leadership. Before you say, will so-and-so take the job, think about what the job is. And then maybe the so-and-so isn't the right person for that job. They might be better for something else. And that's one of the things leaders have to do. They have to think about the outcomes before they go out and ask somebody to take on these positions. Now, if you had somebody who was honest, that he or she has all those characteristics that we mentioned before. They're honest, they get along with people, they know how to listen and those kinds of things too. They're a good person, but they're lacking a couple of things that are in the skill category. But all things considered, they're a good prospect for somebody to run this chapter. So you decided that you're going to ask, we'll just use Matt because he's up front. So Matt's the person we know that has a lot of the right characteristics and a lot of the skills. He's a little weak in presentation skills or conflict management skills, but overall, Matt's a great person. Now, here's something that's really critical about leadership. Once you've decided that Matt has the best combination of skills, can you do anything about the characteristics? Can you change the kind of person he is? Not really. What about the other kind? Can you do anything about that? And that's what's critical about leadership in an organization like this. If you have the right person in terms of his characteristics, if he was just a little stronger in these areas, your job as an organization, your job as a leader, is to help him gain those skills. Do you remember when you first got out of school and you were interviewing for your first job? If you were like me, the first thing I ran into when I was out in the workforce for the first time was I would go in, I had my degree in business from the University of Maryland, a great institution. I had worked a little bit for my dad and things like that too. But more than once, I went into an interview and I was pretty good, to be honest with you, as far as communication rate. Did you ever hear somebody say, well, it seems like you're really pretty good, but we're looking for somebody with more experience? And in my mind, I'm going, well, how do you get experience if nobody will give you a star? So you go to the next job and they say, well, you've never worked in our profession before. So when you have some more experience, come back and call, where do you go to get those things? What if some of those things that they were looking for, some of that experience, some of that success that they want, what if you gain that through this organization, through your involvement in your PMI chapter? That would make a big difference for a lot of people. So what we want to do is we want to talk to you about what happens when you get engaged in leadership, when you get involved in leadership in your PMI chapter. So we're going to tell you 5 things PMI chapter leaders are going to get to say when they leave the board. 5 things they're going to get to say because they put in the time, they volunteered, they worked on a committee, they got senior leadership, and now they're finally, maybe not finally, but they're now leaving the board, and they get to say 5 things because they stepped forward. I'll skip through some too. This just happened. We were at Bethany Beach last week, and my wife and I, we got up in the morning and we were walking on the beach. We decided we wanted to go and get a Coke. So we got in our car, there's an McDonald's around. We drove up to the window just like this. We've all done that before. And you put your order so in the microphone. So all we wanted was a medium Coke and a small Coke. That's all we wanted. So we ordered in there. The young lady said, please come on up. We drove up to the window and we looked inside to see what she was doing. And I've never seen this before. Maybe some of you have seen it. Everything was automated. She didn't do anything. She pushed in a couple of buttons on a computer and 2 cups dropped down into a little conveyor belt. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but I've never seen it before either. And it does everything. It went over to the ice drop. And then it had a medium cup and a small cup. And the machine dropped down some ice into the small cup, some ice into the medium cup. Then it went over to the Coke dispenser and it dispensed small and medium. Then it went around, she put tops on it and started walking over, nothing to it. I turned to my wife and I said, there wasn't much ice in those Cokes. And she said, yeah, I'd like some more ice too. So the young lady reached out to hand us the Cokes and I innocently said, could we have some more ice? And she looked at me and said, what? Could we have some more ice? There wasn't much ice, and put the same amount in each cup. And this poor young thing stood there and said, I'll be right back. And she put the Cokes down. I'm not making any of this. She came back with a guy that was the manager, I assumed. I assumed that because it said Bob, manager on it. But he said, what's the problem? I said, there's no problem. We just like more ice in the Cokes. Could you give us some more ice? And the manager, honest to God, he took the tops off the Cokes and poured them out. And he went back to start the whole process again. And he started to push the buttons, and he realized that if he pushes the buttons, he's going to screw up his inventory. So instead, he put them into the little thing that took him around, a little tray, and he yanked it by hand because he didn't want to start it up. And he went to the ice thing and started pushing it by hand. And he's pushing and pushing. He's looking at me like, that enough ice? And now we got a wise guy. So then he takes it over, he yanks it over, and he pushes the button real quickly for the Cokes because now the cups are full of ice. He puts the tops back on the same cups we started with, walks over and hands us 2 crumpled up cups with a lot of ice and very little Coke. And he walked away. And I turned to my wife and I said, what planet did we land on? These poor people working there were only told one way to do things. Their training said, here's what you do, then here's what you do, then here's what you do. And whatever you do, don't do this because it'll mess up all of these things. They didn't even know really what they were supposed to be doing. And I really started thinking about that too. When you get through your leadership in PMI, when you get to rotate off that board, one of the things you're going to be able to say is, my team can make ice. My team can make ice, and I'll tell you why. Because delegation is a leadership skill. It's something that can be learned. It's something that we have to do. Raise your hand, and online maybe you can do a little bit. Raise your hand if you think you're a good delegator. We're about 50-50 here. Why don't people, when people aren't good delegators, why aren't they good delegators? What are they afraid of? They're afraid it won't get done. We're afraid, what else? We're afraid that the people that are following us won't like us. We're afraid it won't get done in time. We're afraid it won't get done the right way. We got one on there?
A member had a similar issue where he gave a checkout person cash. She didn't know how to make things.
Yeah, we find it all the time. And We don't delegate because we're afraid it won't get done in time, it won't get done the right way, or to be perfectly honest, it won't get done the way I would do it, which of course is the right way. Delegation is a leadership skill, so it's important. You can't get things done with and through other people if you don't give them a chance to do part of that work. So that's an important skill. The other thing is, does anybody still read Time magazine? A few of us do. I don't even know if they have subscriptions anymore. I know you can buy them. They have 4 or 5 issues a year that still do their top whatever it is. They have the most influential. They have the richest people in the world, the 100 top, business managers, the 100 whatever it is, those kinds of things too. And I read a lot of those kinds of things. It's always the Time 100 of this and that, those kinds of things. There's one person that winds up in virtually all of them. Most influential, most well-liked, richest, all those things. Anybody know who that is? No, not Bill Gates. It's a woman. It's Oprah Winfrey. Oprah is on all of those things. Hey, listen, don't forget, a few months ago, this wasn't a joke a few months ago, if you remember. There were people that seriously wanted Oprah Winfrey to win. Now, I don't know Oprah Winfrey. The only thing I know about her is, isn't she a talk show host? I mean, I know she's got this empire, but that's basically what she is. She still does a talk show. David Letterman never made one of those lists. Jay Leno never made one of those lists. As far as I know, none of the late night talk show people, Ellen DeGeneres, they never make those lists. Why Oprah? Raise your hand if you like Oprah Winfrey. Why? What is there about Oprah that you like? She's charismatic. What else?
Genuine.
She seems genuine. She's probably the 3rd richest woman on the face of the earth. Okay? Yeah, she's from the Baltimore area. She's overcome a lot of adversity. Now, I don't know Jay Leno. I don't know David Letterman. They may have had a lot of the same backgrounds and those kinds of things. We just don't know about. The reason that Oprah is so successful is she never had a talk show. She never had a talk show. She had a listening show. You ever watch David Letterman or Jimmy Fallon or any of those? When a guest comes out on late night with Letterman, Leno, any of those, where does the guest sit? In the chair next to their desk. What else do you know about their desk if you watch it? It's raised. They always have to step up to get behind their desk. So their guests sit to their side below them, okay? And if you ever watch the comedians that run these shows, if you watch them interview somebody, doesn't it seem like they're always waiting for the guest to shut up so they can get a zinger in? But that's what they're paid to do. Where do people sit on Oprah's show? They sit on the couch right next to her. Many times she'll have an arm up. And if you watch Oprah do an interview, she has one technique that she uses that makes her stand out. And she uses it frequently. If you watch it, not every time she opens her mouth, but at least once during every interview, she will start off her remark by saying, well, you said, before she answers, whether she is answering positively or negatively, you said, and then she uses 3 or 4 of the exact words that the guest has said to her. You're nodding your heads because if you think about it, that's what she does. That's what she does. And when my own words come back to me, there's only one thing the people watching can assume is that she was doing what? She was listening. She had to be listening. So one of the things you get to say when you roll off of the board of PMI Montgomery County is Oprah has nothing on me. Because being in this role, you're going to have to listen to 2,500 members or representatives, and you're going to have to listen and respond in a way where they think, they feel that you've listened to them. And that alone can get people to have an opinion of you like, well, they don't always do the right thing, but they always try to let you tell them where you're coming from. And that's an important skill. Listening is a leadership skill. It can be a characteristic, but it can be learned also. And the techniques you can use. And that's what leadership in PMI is all about. It's learning to use those skills and develop them. Another thing you're going to get to say, not everybody does things the way I do. And you're probably going to find out the hard way. There's all kinds of people in the world, and not everybody is exactly the same. I did not know this was a real thing. Left brain, right brain, type A, type B. I'm not a scientist or anything. But apparently this guy, Roger Sperry, won the Nobel Prize for identifying what the two sides of the brain do. So the type A, or the left side of the brain, verbal, analytical, processes information sequentially, looks at these first. Anybody here think they're a type A? We got quite a few. The type B, the right brain, visual, intuitive, process information simultaneously, and look at the big picture. You have these type B's in here. Now, what are the chances during the course of the year when you're in leadership in a position in PMI that you're going to have to work with somebody who's the opposite of you? And you're going to have to get things done to do those kinds of things. How are we doing on time? We're good. Well, just real quick. I hate to bring my wife up, but she's the only good example I can think of. My wife would be considered an A+. She grew up in a little town in the Midwest where everything was perfect. She had the same perfect mother and father working the same jobs and coming home every day at the same perfect time. And her perfect brothers and sisters sat down to the same perfect dinner. And the house was perfectly, and it was great. And she wound up marrying me. On an A to B scale, I would be roughly a Z. I grew up in an apartment building in Silver Spring, Maryland, with two brothers, my dad, and my poor mother with the four of us. And if you hit the laundry basket with your dirty clothes, that was close enough in our house. And if you want to see the ultimate in interpersonal communication, you take an A+ and a Z and tell them to wallpaper. I don't even have to finish this story, do I? I came home from work. I like to go, after work, I like to go out for a run. I heard my wife and kids in the kitchen. I tried to sneak upstairs so that I could go for my run before they come. And I heard this plaintive cry from the kitchen. Hi, honey, what were you going to do just now? I was going to go for my run. Why? Never mind. Well, you can't leave a never mind hanging out there. You know that. So I go in, she says, well, I was hoping, this was in the summertime, so it's going to be late, or it's going to be light till 9 o'clock. I was hoping we could go to the wallpaper store, pick out the wallpaper. I want to redo we had a half bath off of our living room. It was the kids' room. She wanted to do it in kids' style. So I thought the builder's paint looked fine, but I was going to say drag. We went over to the wallpaper store. She's looking at patterns and things. I'm looking at solid colors, black, brown. You're covering the walls. It's not that big of a deal, right? My wife didn't think it that way. She picked out patterns, crossing patterns of flowers. And because it was for little kids, she decided she wanted to have little animals on her wallpaper. So she picked out little ducks. Do you know what's on a little duck? Little beak, little wings, little feet, little tail. And when an A+ wallpapers, all of those ducks have got to line up. So this is what we did. She would cut it. She would first measure. She would cut it. She would put the paste on the back of it. She would hold it by the edges. I would come around and get it from her. She would come around from behind where she put the paste on. She would take it back from me. Take it in, put it up on the wall, smooth it out. Everything was great. All the ducks lined up, and I'm thinking, this is easy. I'm going to get my run in. She's almost finished. There's only one place left that's not done when the phone rings. And I'm standing there with the last piece in my hand. And the last place that she hasn't done it is under the sink behind the plate. No vanity. It's cut, measured, pasted. Phone rings, my daughter runs and says, Mom, it's Carolyn. It's about the party tomorrow night. You have to talk to her right now. So my wife looks at me, my paper, and she says, listen carefully. I want you to take that piece of wallpaper, I want you to put it up there where I've measured it. There's only one place to put it. I want you to put it up there, I want you to smooth it out. I don't want you to do anything else. Just put the toilet seat down, sit down till I come back. I said, fine, go ahead and get your call. She starts to walk away. She turns and says, make sure the ducks line up. So I put it up there. It was fine. You could see a little bit where they didn't actually come together, but it was fine. And then there was a little bubble kind of thing there, and I tried to push it down. Don't do that. She comes back in. This is the truth. She comes back in. She looks at me. So I'm sitting there ready for my run. She does one of these, and then she does one of these. You've got to be kidding. I said, what? She said, the ducks don't line up. And I thought to myself, Mark, before you talk, you better think. Your relationship is at a critical juncture. Her A+ need for all the ducks to line up and your Z need to go out for your run are in complete and direct conflict. Be careful. Mark, you teach this, you know what to say, and I thought I handled it professionally. What's she looking for? She's looking for empathy, right? So I started off the right way. I said, honey, I understand how important it is for the ducks to line up under the sink behind the pipe. She says, oh, you do, Mr. Smart. And I said, yes. And she said, why? I said, it's important for the ducks to line up under the sink behind the pipe because the Pope is coming to dinner. During dinner, the Pope's going to have to get up, go to the bathroom, and sit down on the toilet. That thing on his head's going to fall off. He's going to reach down and he's going to glance under our sink. He's going to come back to dinner. He's going to say, Mrs. Levin, you have a lovely home. Do you know under the sink behind the pipe, your ducks do not line up? True story, in 43 years of marriage, closest we've ever come to a divorce. We're going to get divorced over wallpaper. Did it have anything to do with wallpaper? It didn't. It had to do with people that do things differently. People do things differently. Negotiating is a leadership skill. And negotiating isn't limited to negotiating the best price for your meal or negotiating where we're going to have a meeting or who's going to do the work. Sometimes you're negotiating needs. Sometimes somebody that needs to be a detail person has to work with somebody that wants to be just the opposite. And negotiating is a leadership skill. The other thing you have to do to be able to say is, you know the technology rules. And I think this is something we all know, and especially with this group here, with some maybe in the IT area. Technology rules right now, and leaders are going to have to get the idea of using technology as part of the way we engage people in our association, and using it in any way that we possibly can. I grew up in a different generation than most of you in this room, so I'm not what I would call a high-tech kind of a person. Right? I remember when social networking first came out, and for a long time I wasn't on Facebook or anything, and I tried to figure out what it was, so I did the thing that most people do, I Googled, okay? And at the time, it wasn't even a word. So I Googled it and said, social, relating to the way in which people behave or interact. And then I looked up networking, right? Social networking. The process or practice of building up and maintaining relationships, especially with people whose friendships could bring advantages such as job or business opportunities. Networking, social networking here. And what I found out was those things aren't exactly what people think of when they're social networking. Now again, I was old-fashioned. I remember how I met people. We got introduced them. And I remember back in elementary school, we went to school at Silver Spring Intermediate, which actually was Montgomery High School before it became where it was. That handsome young man is me. I was 8 years old. Pretty good looking, huh? You think that's a scratch on there on my pants? No, that's some food I got. My nickname, I was in the 3rd grade when that picture was taken. My nickname, this is the truth, my nickname was Elephant Boy. Kids are cruel. The worst thing about being an elephant boy in the 3rd grade is I had a crush on a 6th grader, an older woman. I even have a picture of her. Oops. Kind of cute, don't you think? Anybody know who that is? It's Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn was 3 years ahead of me, and she was 9 years or so ahead of Bill at Montgomery High School. And Goldie, my best friend, was the brother of Goldie's best friend. The brother was her best friend. And the only time a sixth grader and a third grader see each other is either in the lunchroom or out on the playground. So that's where Goldie and I had our, what wasn't actually a relationship. I was more of a stalker. I would go around the outside, but I had a crush on her. And then I looked like that and she looked like that. What were the chances? And you know what I found out? Finally, after all these years, I am so much cooler online than I am in person. And we wound up getting back together again as friends later. Using technology effectively isn't something we do as a process anymore. It's literally become a leadership skill. Expectations are so high about what people can do individually and organizationally. We have to think about it. As you all know from this meeting, what you see down here in the lower right-hand corner, that is going to become the norm. And some of these things we're going through with technology right now because of COVID and everything else, they're not going away. They may be changing a little bit, but they're not going away. And that's a real challenge to everybody right now. So when you're thinking about who you want to lead your organization, you need to think about whether or not they got the ability to get other people to use technology effectively in what we're doing. And the last thing I want you to be able to say, and I hope all of you that are officers and leaders in the chapter can say this when you're through your leadership positions. Now I understand what we call the gift of leadership. And we think leadership is a burden because of all the time that's involved in it. And we think leadership is a hassle because of all the good work and the meetings and those kinds of things. But we forget that leadership is also a gift. And here's what the gift of leadership is. The gift of leadership is what you take away and use from your PMI leadership experience in other parts of your life. In your professional life, in your home life, and other places, because you're going through those chairs of leadership, you're going to be exposed to all those different situations and have to use those kinds of things. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I know everybody in the room is familiar with that, right? Okay, so that's the outline for the PMP for the certification, and then you've got the 5 domains for the test and all those wonderful things too. So I went through the book and I said, okay, I'll take a look at this. And they got each domain's got a chapter in there. It's got all the skills and things like that too. But there's a one piece in there. It's titled Domains Cross-Cutting Knowledge and Skills. Knowledge and skills is going to help you in all 5 of those domains. It makes you good in your profession. It gives you the ability to pass that exam and use that certification and credibility. Look at some of the things that are on that list. Active listening, change management, customer satisfaction metrics. By the way, customer satisfaction metrics for the leaders of this chapter, that's member retention, isn't it? That's an easy one. Are people happy with what we're doing and keeping their membership? Effective decision making, delegation techniques, it goes on. Facilitation, interpersonal skills, meeting management, negotiating and influencing techniques and skills. Isn't it interesting how the skills we just talked about to be successful in the chapter are the same skills people are looking for in the people in this room? That certification may let them know that you've got the technical skills. But what a lot of them want to know is, do you have interpersonal skills? Do you have the ability to get things done with and through other people? And one of the places you get experience, because there's always one people with this is right here in this chapter, being part of the leadership of what they're doing. Remember we said leadership is the ability to get things done with and through other people. We don't want you to be leaders, we want you to be effective. And effective leaders have the ability to get a lot of things done with and through other people. It's exponentially using the resources of the other people. But there's even more than that. We don't want you just to be effective. We want you to be exceptional leaders. And exceptional leaders have the ability to initiate change with and through other people. And I don't think there's ever been a time organizationally that we've been challenged the way we are right now, and we're going to be for the next 3 or 4 years while we go through these. And that's what effective leadership is all about. This was a great, this was Lance Moore, I don't know if anybody knows him, he used to write for the Time magazine. He said, leaders make things possible, exceptional leaders make them inevitable. And that's what leadership's about. And if you don't think you can transfer those characteristics, you are wrong, because they'll go transferring everywhere where you have to go. The gift of the PMI chapter leadership experience is becoming an exceptional leader. And that's what I hope we've done tonight, is to show you some of the things that you can do, some of the ways you can get engaged, some of the ways you can get involved. This PMI leadership, it's not a resume builder, it's a career builder. And that's why we call it the gift of leadership. Do we have any time for questions at all? Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If you think of anything, Matt's got my contact information. If we have anybody online that has any questions at all about what we talked about, I think we got about 5 minutes here before we Matt?
Sure. So in my 5 years in the chapter, it's more running a business. Meaning project management. So your customers are not only your chapter members, but also your education partners. They're depending on you to get business. So you have to satisfy both ends. Marketing to get increased membership, marketing for speakers to want to come speak to your chapter. Outside of symposiums and unusual circumstances, we don't pay our speakers. They volunteer their time because they value the chapter, they value Mr. Geis, and they value our more than 2,000 members.
That's great. Any other comments or questions? We started off talking about chapter leadership is a gift that keeps giving. Those are not before and after pictures of your board of directors. I think the one over here on the right is the before. No, I'm just teasing you. It's an opportunity sometimes we don't think about. It's a chance to give voice to people in your chapter that aren't going to be heard any other way. And it's an opportunity for you too. Before the program, I was talking to Charlie about the scholarship program that you all have for people in graduating from a high school in Montgomery County. And what I'd like to do, and Bill, maybe you want to help me on this, is I would like to offer to earn the scholarship next year, 2021, for one of those scholarships that you all are offering. And I won't say you have to give it to somebody who's graduated from Montgomery Blair. I don't know exactly how they're picked, but the fact that it's coming from a bunch of Blair people, that won't have any impact on your decision. But I would actually like to help set up something like that, to add a third scholarship. Thank you all for your time very much. I appreciate you.
So this presentation is coincidentally well timed because no later than Friday we'll be opening up our nominations for our 4 positions that are open for November elections this year. So Mr. Levin's presentation spoke to you, and you'd like to consider becoming a board member, please nominate yourself. If you know of a colleague, before you nominate them, make sure they're okay with it. We've had that happen before. Yes, it'll be in the next newsletter. So we have 4 positions every year. At any time, you can volunteer for any area of focus. We're all volunteers, so unlike some of the bigger chapters that have a paid support echelon, we're all volunteers, so sometimes we fall back a little bit, but we try to stay above water, because Mr. Geis' motto has always been, it's all about the members, and we as board members pride ourselves in. Consider becoming a part of the team for next year. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to plug in for next month. It is going to be our membership appreciation. It's going to be the best meals that we'll have here next month. Hope to see you all back. Hopefully we'll get a couple more members than this. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to let you go. Unless you have any questions. Thank you.